right, everybody, we got another very special guest for you. Returning to the show is Mr. Blake McCarthy. What's going on, Blake?
Not much. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's we did something right the first time, so you came back. That's good. That's good for us.
It was fun. I appreciate you guys having me back on.
Yeah. So Territory, it was success. The first issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many backers do you remember the first one had?
It was 137.
Nice. So yeah, and it was funded. The first issue was amazing. I have the background here, and I have the awesome variant cover here. So now we have issue 2 out. And I know Chris and I are super excited for it. We've already made our pledges and keep adding more variant covers to it.
It's working.
But I guess, yeah, it's good. Let's start with the plot again. Just give us the rundown of what is Territory and what's your take on this whole kaiju thing.
Definitely. So the overall plot for the whole series is it's a post-apocalyptic series set sometime in the distant future in the Pacific Northwest, and it's many years after some sort of kind of nuclear apocalyptic event. And the people that are left are surviving in tribes now. Technology is pretty much gone, electronics, everything like that. So they've kind of reverted back to a more, kind of primal tribal lifestyle. And after the nuclear event, these huge kaiju, in the book they're called behemoths, just kind of came back, and people started worshiping the behemoths as gods. And they've got kind of a yin and a yang to them. They kind of bring life. They've got some sort of power to kind of heal the earth, but they're also these, really big, powerful, scary creatures. And so different tribes worship the different kaiju, and the series focuses in on one tribe who worships the Great Horn, which is that creature you've got there behind you. It's basically this massive, mostly kind of bear-like creature, but got some big antlers and spikes and stuff like that. And the main character, her name is Alkia, and it follows her and her tribe who worship the Great Horn. And so the first issue is just kind of introducing the world. They encounter the Great Horn for the first time, which is a big deal to them. It's kind of like a sign that they need to, that it's asking for their worship is how they interpret it. And so the second issue is they go on what's called the pilgrimage, which is this place where the Great Horn fought another one of these behemoths. It's called Aquamassis. It's kind of a more aquatic, kind of frog, kind of crab, crazy looking monster. And so we actually get a kaiju battle in this second issue. It gives you some more backstory on how this tribe got here, and just some more on kind of the way the religion works, the way the world works, and everything like that.
Yeah. And I think the interesting part about the first issue, because, it's a big monster, but it's not people running away from the big monster. They're like, oh, this is where we spotted the big monster last. Let's move our tribe there.
Yeah. Totally. And that was kind of the idea behind it, was, to me, obviously these creatures are huge and scary. And, in the first issue, when they see it, they're in awe, but they go and hide. But at the same time, like, they want to be near its presence. Like, these things, these are their gods. They revere these. They want to be, around them. They look up to them. And so it's, kind of, if something like this were to exist in real life, there would be people that would follow it, would devote themselves to it and stuff like that. And so this is just kind of following that train down.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing he talked about really quick was the adding the regenerative or the healing aspects to it. We're like, yeah, these things destroy, but something like their saliva or something, it heals the people, right? So that's why they like to be around it, because those things are it's like a medicine to them.
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple things that, and it's none of it's really spelled out explicitly. There's supposed to be kind of some, mystery to it. But like you said in the first issue, so there's some people that have what they call the sickness, which in my mind is, this was an irradiated world from the nuclear fallout. So the sickness is kind of a fallout from that. And like you said, the saliva and, is able to, it has some healing properties. They believe that it can help kind of cure that. So it's kind of, that the natural world kind of curing the damage that humanity did, not only to the world, but to itself. And then So not only do they, heal people, but they also, where they go, the forest tend to regrow. Life in general just seems to kind of come back stronger. And a lot of it is a little bit more primal. A lot of the smaller creatures in the world, we tried to make a little bit bigger, kind of more prehistoric looking, just to kind of drive that home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it helps and plays with that whole like post-apocalyptic world for sure. So we have issue 2, and at the top of the page for Kickstarter is a Halloween discount. I don't know if this will go up in time for that, but so let's talk. What are you offering with issue 2? Where is the story going to take us? And then you got a lot of goodies here too. So
yeah, definitely. So the first one, like I said, it kind of introduces the world. They encounter the Great Horn for the first time, and they interpret it as a sign, and they have a tribal leader who is kind of their interpreter for what he says, basically what he believes the Great Horn wants them to do, kind of the will of God kind of thing. And he wants, at the end of issue 1, he says that they need to go on the pilgrimage, which is to this site where the Great Horn had this battle with this other kaiju. So issue 2, you get the battle scene, you get kind of the history, and then there's some other stuff that happens during the pilgrimage. I don't want to spoil it, but it kind of alludes to what's going to, in my opinion, the third issue is where probably the most action is, and so it starts to kind of wind up some of that, and then there's a couple other little surprises and world building things too. And then for the campaign itself, the first one was my first ever Kickstarter campaign. This was my first comic, so it was pretty straightforward. Didn't really have a lot of, side things with it, just because I was mostly focused on, doing the comic itself. And with the second one, now that I feel a little bit more comfortable with that, it was trying to give more options for people. So we added, stuff like stickers, pins, more covers, and then a cool kind of in-world item is the pendant that Alkia and some of the tribe members wear. We actually have somebody who's going to hand carve some of them for us, and we're selling that.
Wow.
So it'll be a cool like cosplay thing, or just something that's actually in the world.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know Chris and I, before we even did the interview, we were like gushing over the variant covers. Again, we get one of those, the retro wave, like neon style cover that like behind me. I mean, that's the preview of the I forgot what we called it, that monster.
Yeah. Aquamassus. And yep. And it's the same, Martha Womersley. She's the one that did the one behind you there. And we brought her back because, I mean, that was probably our biggest, the most popular cover on the first one. Her style is just so unique, and like to have these big monsters, but to make them so colorful and so eye catching. And she's really just got an insanely unique and cool style. So we brought her back, and I think with the second one, she crushed it again. I mean, she does an awesome job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think I could like cover more than that first issue cover. And then I saw this and this is so much better. And that's saying a lot, because the first cover, the one that's behind Mike right now, is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Totally. And she's actually like, she hasn't been doing color for a super long time, but just the way she's grown and improved it in, basically like less than a year since we even did the first one. She's crazy talented, and she's, getting better really quickly, which she, like you said, she's already really good. And I'm just excited to see, kind of her stuff keep developing.
Yeah. And I know there's some other awesome variants here, like Jeff Zornow is doing a cool one that has both the monsters on it, and then you have this new style, an exclusive manga edition cover, which I had to pick up after too, because that's pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And so the Zornow one was cool because I was familiar with him. I don't know if you guys have read the series Godzilla, Rulers of Earth. It was a Godzilla comic that IDW put out. A couple of years ago. Great series, but he did some of the covers and some of the interior art for some of those issues.
Okay.
And as a Godzilla fan, I love that series. And so I actually, when I was even doing the first campaign, I reached out to him just because I knew I loved his stuff. And, it would be really cool to see his take on these monsters, since, he's kind of done the biggest in the world. And I think he did a really good job. So I was excited that he was able to join in to see his take. And the manga one, we were talking a little bit before the interview, but with the first issue, I kind of asked for some feedback, on what we could do for the second issue. And one thing a couple people mentioned was kind of a manga style cover. And I thought, obviously kaiju, it's a great fit for that. But then just kind of the characters and the setting, I thought would be cool with it too. And found an amazing artist named Andre Gurepi, I think is how you pronounce his last name. But and he does these. He's got lots of awesome kind of manga style stuff, and he was willing to take it on. I think he did an awesome job. It's cool to see a different style, a different take on this world. And yeah, I was really happy with how it came out, and I think just the lettering and everything really fits the book.
Yeah, it gave me really heavy Horizon Zero Dawn vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that game or not, but that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw it.
Yeah, and it's funny because so I hadn't played Horizon when I wrote this series. I'd seen it, so I was kind of familiar with the aesthetic, and I liked the aesthetic. And it did kind of have an influence, but like I said, I hadn't played the game, so I didn't know it really well. So I just kind of took some of the aesthetic stuff, and I'm actually kind of playing through it right now. And there's a lot of parallels. I'm like, this is definitely very similar, kind of concept wise, in a lot of ways. And yeah, I think just, that kind of tribal feel in a post-apocalyptic world it's a cool juxtaposition of things that, kind of makes both of them pop a little bit more, because you're expecting, you kind of expect different things with them. And so to see them kind of playing against each other, I think it works really well, and it's cool. Especially when you want to have kind of, a nature, kind of nature reclaiming the earth theme going on, like trying to go for a little bit. So
yeah, and you have some pretty cool milestone stretch goals, right? We can talk about here.
Yeah, so we got a couple stretch goals that we're gonna reveal once it's funded, but some milestone goals just as far as like number of backers, and just tried to think of some other cool stuff that people would like, and hit it at hopefully to incentivize. I was really happy with the number of backers on the first campaign, but just trying to drive those numbers up a little. Where the team felt like we grew on this issue and we really improved, and so we wanted to try to get the word out to more people. And so the stretch goals were just kind of and the milestones too were just kind of a fun way to hopefully encourage us to just get more backers, more eyes out there.
Mm-hmm. Like you added some other stuff for the first issue as well. There's another variant cover. So a lot of goodies to add on. And yeah, I mean, you could just do so much cool stuff with the art, because there's so much to show off in this world, right? That it's like, and everybody has their own take on how the kaiju or the behemoths should look, right? So their own interpretation.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's like obviously as a writer, I'm proud of the story, but I think it is a very like visually driven comic. The world itself is such a big part of it, and I think like one of the goals is to make that world feel very real. Add a lot of detail so that people feel like it's a real breathing place. And Chris Sassman, the artist on the book, is so good at just adding little details, kind of either in the background or just through his, an extra panel or something. The stuff that I hadn't even necessarily written in, but he just finds ways to really bring the world to life. And so, yeah, I think, like you said, there's a lot of visual, a lot of visual things that we can kind of play with. We can put out there that are eye catching. And, the first, and Chris too, because he's another one that, the art on the first issue was amazing, but he actually hasn't been doing this for this long. And some of the pages he showed me for issue 2 were, I mean, you can tell he's already grown a ton too, which is crazy because he was already really good, but even just like some of the anatomy and the finer details, really, he took a big step forward too. And so I think, it feels very consistent throughout the issue, which is awesome. And his visual storytelling, the way he sets up his panels, the way he frames characters, things like that, like stuff you can't write, it just takes a good artist to know how to do it. And he really did an awesome job.
Yeah. So you have a couple of big ticket items, and this is always, I'll be honest with you, I never purchase them, but I always like to look at them. Yeah. But they're worth mentioning, and I like talking about them. So you've got the second to largest one is Get Drawn Into the Story. So is that for issue 2?
So it'll be issue 3. So issue 2 is done, and I can actually get you guys a review copy now. So with both these issues, I wanted to try to have them at least pretty much done by the time we launch, just because one, it gives us a good idea of what we can use for kind of promotion and stuff, but two, that way we can tell people like, hey, if you back this campaign, this comic is written. This is backing it just so that, because I pay everything up front. So the cost, that way I get reimbursed for some of the costs for the artist, but then also the rest of it just goes to printing and shipping and actually getting it distributed, because the issue's done, it's ready to go. We just need to basically be able to get it to people. But the Drawn Into will be, issue 3, or if you want to kind of a future issue. But we're planning on it being a 6-issue miniseries. So it'll be either 3, 4, 5, or 6, depending on what you want. We'll just kind of tell people, this is the outline of the story, and give them a few choices on where they might be able to be.
And then the one for, I'm going to try to intrigue Mike for you over here.
Yeah.
Original art.
I know.
Original art.
It's not only original art, it's original art. It's original cover art for $200. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because, like you said, those big ticket items, obviously it's a huge commitment. But Chris,
ridiculously cheap. Not saying we're expensive. For cover art, I think $200 is really cheap. So someone will be picking that up for sure.
Well, cool, and we hope so. And the thing is, Chris is such a good artist, but he also does it all still by hand, which is incredible. And actually, you can see behind me here, this is the original art for the 2-page spread. For the first appearance of the Great Horn in the first issue.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I paid him for that one because I was like, that's just like, to me, that was, as someone who had this story in my head for a couple of years, to actually see it brought to life was, a really special and cool thing. So I got the original art, and it's crazy in person. Like the details come through on the page, but when you get the massive pages in person, and he, like I said, his details are so incredible. And so, yes, we've got the cover for 200, or any of the pages that are left from 1 and 2, aside from the cover, for 175. And so Chris is based out of South Africa, so it makes shipping a little bit of a challenge, which is why we do have it priced the way we do, because I'm U.S. based, he's South Africa based, so one of us has to either ship it separately, or one ships it and then we reship it, or whichever's cheaper. But it's the pages, when you get them, they really are, in my opinion, breathtaking. And I think Chris has the talent to really make it in as an artist in the industry. And I think it'd be kind of cool to have, some pieces of, before everyone knew his name, some of his first kind of his first works.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, the amount of detail too, when you see these pages, he can draw a big monster, but he also, when you have you have some previews on your Kickstarter right now of pages, but just the expressions on the people's faces, he does a really good job with facial expressions, I think.
Yeah.
Agreed. And it was cool too. One thing that was really awesome, just seeing between issue 1 and issue 2, again, issue 1 was introducing all these characters, introducing the world. But then with issue 2, you could tell he knew where the characters were. He was familiar with them, and he was really good. Like you said, he's really good at expressions and drawing personality into them. And so now that, he had a whole issue of kind of knowing who the characters were, and knowing the story and knowing the world. I think with the second issue, he was really able to bring that personality to life for all the characters, because he had, and so it makes them feel a lot more real. It makes them feel, a lot more relatable. And there is it's a big monster book, but there is a big emotional component to it, and he's really able to capture those emotions in a lot of the pages.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you're almost halfway funded here, right? And you still have 23 days to go. So is this further along than you were for the first issue?
Well, so it's more money, because the first one, we had only a $1,500 goal. Mm-hmm. And that was, again, because it was a little bit, it was a little bit more just focused on the comic, and I just wanted to get it funded. I hadn't done a Kickstarter before. I had no audience. I had no background. So I set the goal intentionally low, just wanting to make sure it got funded, and it did. And then with this one, it was kind of more of a goal to actually cover some of the costs, to be able to give more options for people. So we've made more money for this campaign, but it's at a lower percent. But that being said, right, we're basically at 50%, halfway through in the first week, which is awesome. And that was kind of what I was hoping we would be.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting now, in the next couple of weeks, trying to, keep promoting it, keep getting new eyes on it and stuff. This is all still pretty new. So that's going to be kind of a new challenge for me. But fortunately, I've made some friends kind of in the indie community, which is just so welcoming and so awesome. There's so many people out there who are willing to help you, get your foot in the door, help you with your work, and everyone just really supports each other. So I'm excited to see how the next couple of weeks go, and I've got a good feeling about it.
Cool, man. That's good to hear. And I think I have to think that people going to get issue 2 already seeing that there's an issue 1 that's been funded, or like, oh shit, like they're probably a little more pushed to throw some money at it, I would think.
I mean, and hopefully, and again, that's part of why we try to have the book basically ready to go. We want people to feel good about what they're buying. This isn't something where, it's like, we've got this cool idea, help us bring it to life. It's like, no, we've put a lot of our skin into the game. We've worked really hard on this already. Now we just, want your support so we can get it out to you and get it out in the world.
Yeah. And I think just the last question, probably, and the most important for Chris, is when we get to like the Water Tribe people, is there going to be like an Aquaman style figure? Because that's what Chris wants to know. So
not quite Aquaman, but I have like I would love to have like some models, especially of the monsters. Just because that's such a cool, like that. It's the most visually cool part of the book. And then, it's kind of a thing too, like with kaiju stuff, there's so many cool toys and collectibles and stuff like that. It would be cool to see like a territory version of that. So that is something I have in mind. And it's another thing that's a whole new world. So I'll have to go and figure out how all that works. But I would like to, hopefully at some point we'll be able to make that happen.
Like, 3D
little figures.
Yeah, that'd be the best part. I think the closest we've seen to that is one of our guests did custom pop figures for one of his stories, because you can do that if you get a big enough run. But yeah, that'd be sick to have like because the other half to Godzilla besides the stories is the huge fandom of the collectibles, like the statues and the figures and stuff. So
totally,
that'd be sick. But so. Blake, thanks for being back, man. We're gonna promote the hell out of this too. Keep tweeting about it and stuff. So, this is a book that Chris and I both really enjoyed. And a lot of people think we read everything or buy everything that of all our guests. I couldn't afford to do that, so we definitely don't do that because we've had over 200 guests, I think now. So, but yeah, dude, thanks so much for being back. Wish you the best of luck on the rest of the issues too. So,
where can people follow you online, Blake?
Thank you guys. And so both Twitter and Instagram, and then obviously on Kickstarter itself. Fortunately, my handle is the same for both Twitter and Instagram. It's just at BMC Comics. So at BMCCOMICS. And it'll be, so like stuff like you said, we had a one-day Halloween sale, and just anything like that we have going on, I'll definitely be blasting out on all the social media channels. So
cool.
Awesome. So everybody out there, I'll have the links to the Kickstarter down below. And I apologize, there's some noise in the background because on this Halloween, I have a kitty that's decided to attack me.
It's a black cat on Halloween.
That's my black cat on Halloween.
Yeah.
Say hi to everybody.
Yeah.
But so check out the show notes down below. I will have the link to Blake's Kickstarter down there so you guys can all check it out. And hopefully you do, because the first issue was awesome. Blake, thanks so much for being on the show, man. And
thanks for having me back.
We'll do it again.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I'll keep coming. So
sweet.